Hey guys, Matt with Green Bar Trading. Hope everyone had a great weekend. It is extremely cold up in the Northeast, but I hope everybody enjoyed the weekend with all the sports on. But as we go into this new week, we're going to face a lot of things that I'm going to go over in this video. So this is our weekly watch list video. I'm going to start here with our earnings for the week. We're starting to get into the technology stocks, okay? We see Netflix on Tuesday. We got Tesla on Wednesday. This is all going to start to really ramp up. Today, we have a lot of the banks finishing up their earnings reports. But we're going to want to see from these tech stocks, these stocks that have carried the NASDAQ market so much for the past year, and especially starting out in this year, really strong. So we want to see, will that earnings growth continue? And we're going to be watching those. If you are trading around these earnings reports, be careful with the options. As you know, you're paying the premium to be trading some big moves. If you don't get that big move the next day, you're really going to get hurt. So just be careful with trading around earnings, but they can prove to give a decent move. So that's your earnings right there. All right, so now looking at our economic calendar for the week, today's Monday, so that's January 22nd. You have at 10 a.m. the U.S. leading economic indicators. Nothing crazy here. Tuesday, there's nothing. Wednesday, very little. I mean, it will maybe move markets just a little bit at that time when it comes out. So be aware. You need to know your economic calendar if you are day trading at that time, because when a report comes out, there's that knee-jerk reaction a lot of times. So just be careful of that. So on Thursday, I'm going to be looking at the GDP. That comes out at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. You want to see how the economy is doing, right? A lot of talk last year was all about recession. So recession, the typical definition is for 2 quarters of negative GDP. So we haven't seen that, right? So we're expecting 1.7% here for that Q4 GDP growth. So we'll see how that comes in. And then at 8:30, you have the initial jobless claims. And then on Friday, what the Fed looks at the most is that PCE index, especially the core PC index. They want to see that as close to 2% as possible, right? So what is expected is 3.0% for the year over year. So we're going to be watching that on Friday. Most likely will move the markets. So keep that in mind. So that's your economic calendar for this week. All right, so going over to the SPY. This is the S&P 500 ETF. One of the most followed ETFs out there. And we have broken out to all-time highs. So we start out the week at all-time highs. Where will we go from here? Well, we'll get into that in a second. This is also the daily chart. Each one of these candlesticks represents 1 day of trading. So the indicators I like to use the most are the RSI, that's down here. You can see here we have overbought, we have oversold levels. All right, so the way that we use these, looking back here in October of last year, you had an RSI that was oversold. Since then, we have just gone off on a rocket ship to overbought territory. That's where we're at right now as it continues to move higher. All right, so when the RSI is overbought, a lot of times there's a potential for it to pull back. Same as when it's oversold, there's more of a possibility that there'll be buying taking place. So that's what we look at with the RSI. I also like to look at the volume. I want to see on big moves, does that volume stack up nicely? Okay. So if you do get a breakout, is it on higher volume or is it on lower volume? Well, this happened to be this year. So we had the pullback to start the year. And then we're starting to see volume ramp up. That's a positive, right? So we broke out to all-time highs on higher volume. So that's a good sign for the S&P 500. I also like these indicators here. The 200 moving average, I look at the 50-day moving average, which is this cream colored line. And then I have the 20 EMA for momentum. That's this blue colored line. So that's the indicators that I use. And you can see here to start the year, we had that pullback, right? So you're overbought. You have a pullback to that momentum indicator, that 20 EMA. And we saw a nice bounce off of that. Okay. We saw support here. That's where we're at the moment. Looking at the 3-year, this is what I kind of see. Now, everybody could draw this stuff up differently, but this is where the real support has been, right here. So you have the highs that we saw back in 2021 was resistance. Now that's totally normal, right? After a huge pullback like this, eventually reaching where we used to be, right? That's just the way that the markets like to work out a lot of times. Now, what we watch around here is, what do we do from there? Do we sell off on heavy volume, or do we break out of that? Well, obviously, we broke out of that. Now, this is going to probably be that area of support. Now, it's anybody's guess where the market's going to go. But I do like to see where a lot of that buying has taken place. So you have that down here, probably about the 470s. And then you also have support that hasn't been hit yet at this 50-day moving average. So these are the things that I would be watching. All right. You see a breakout back here. This is also a level I'd be watching from previous highs back in the summer of 2023, came back to it again, seeing that resistance, totally normal, and then breaking out from it. We haven't tested this yet, all right? But we are in a nice uptrend. So that's the S&P 500 right there. Going over to the NASDAQ, which is the QQQ, this also has had that nice breakout from all-time highs back in 2021. So again, what do I look at? Is that support around this area, breaking out of it and then pulling back into where we saw that in 2021. So that's what we look at. We broke out big time, helped out by NVIDIA. AI has been absolutely helping the Qs also. So this has also gotten support at that 20 EMA, right? That's the momentum we're seeing in the market right now. You have the volume on the Qs. Really, really nice. A nice breakout in volume. You can see here these bars are just going up like stairs as you see the breakout. All right, so that's all good signs. You also have this uptrend for the year going back to 2022, the end of 2022. So there is a lot of room to pull back. Now, just because the market is just looking like a rocket ship does not mean that's going to last forever. And you can see here the market opens in about a minute, and we're expecting to open up at 423s, which is up here. All right. So sometimes when you do get those breakouts, you got to be careful that it doesn't pull back a little bit on you before, continuing higher. You are at an elevated RSI, so we want to look at that. Overbought. Doesn't mean it can't continue to go overbought, but there's going to be pullbacks in there. Just like you saw here, this pullback to start the year, and then it saw some support, right? If we look at this, we saw some support around this area, and the market continued to go higher, right? Again, on that ramp up in volume. That's all things that you want to see. All right, so that's the QQQ. All right, just looking at NVIDIA opening up here, almost at 1%, pulling back just a little bit. I mean, look at the RSI on this, on the daily chart. This is crazy. Now, who would be buying right here instead of waiting for a pullback? Because the market doesn't just keep going up straight. So the market for NVIDIA, I know how hot the stock is. I know how important the stock is, especially for AI. They're making a lot of money. Their growth is great, but it just doesn't go straight up forever. There's going to be pullbacks. So if you want to get invested in Nvidia, what I would recommend is wait for a pullback. You know, these pullbacks always come back to these moving averages, right? They don't just never touch these averages again. So the 50 is right here. We saw support to start the year, and then back here in December, you have the 20 for that momentum. So this is definitely on that momentum run. You can wait for a pullback to the 20. See if you get support there. All right, so that's just a quick look at Nvidia because the stock has been on a real roll. All right, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hit the thumbs up, and I'll see you on the next one. Take care, guys.